So, hello, I decided to do another book review, and this is a book. It's not a great book, it's an entertaining book. I read this book when I was in junior high or high school. Almost all the girls were reading it. These books were very popular among young girls back in the 80s and 90s. This book is called Heaven, and I thought it would be fun. The last few books I read, I really wasn't happy about, and I was like, well, at least I can read some kind of guilty pleasure book that I know I will enjoy. And of course, about halfway through, I couldn't put the book down and finished it. Like, I pretty much binge read it yesterday till I finished it, and then I started on the sequel, which sequel is not as good, I don't think. Like, with her books, it almost always seems like the first book in the series is the best, and then they just kind of go downhill. And I believe, she actually wrote this one. People that are fans of hers know the author. She actually died, and they had a ghostwriter come through and write like tons of series. And the first couple weren't that bad because I think they actually did use her manuscripts. And then, of course, after you've been dead 30 years, they run out of manuscripts, so they just use the same tired formula. But what this book is about is there's this girl, and her name's Heaven, and her mother died while she was in childbirth, and so Heaven's father took care of her, and then he got remarried to this woman named Sarah. And she has 4 brothers and sisters, and they grew up really poor. And I believe it's supposed to be West Virginia. And I mean, these people have nothing. They don't even have indoor plumbing. They have to go to an outhouse. And so the father's this, he's kind of a piece of shit. He doesn't take care of his family. He's always in trouble. They'll have livestock. He'll get in gambling debts, and he'll have to pay people their cow. And then it comes to the point where, their grandpa are also there. And it comes to the point where Sarah gets pregnant again, and she's not very happy about it. And so she ends up, when she has her baby, it comes out and it doesn't have a sex, and it dies stillborn. And then she finds out that the father had syphilis, and he has to go get treatments for it, and he just kind of leaves. And like I said, these people are poor. They're almost starving to death. The kids are. Well, she gets pissed off, eventually kind of goes nuts after that happens. The grandmother dies, and the stepmother, Sarah, just leaves. She leaves all the kids there. And the ages are supposed to be, Heaven, I think, is supposed to be 12 or 13, and then Fanny's a year younger. Tom, I think, is around the same age as Heaven, and they're really close. And then you always have there's always these kind of characters in her books. There's always whatever the main character, Heaven, she's this kind of perfect, just loves her family and cares so much about them. And then there'll be the older brother or the younger brother, and they'll always be very tight. And then there's always kind of the slut sister. And so you kind of had that formula in this book too. And then the little kids that are real sweet. They call the little girl Arjane, and then there's Keith. And they don't have real big roles, except that the little girl's always sickly and she has problems with her stomach, and they're starving to death. And so when the stepmother leaves, by the way, I should have said this maybe right from the beginning. Spoilers. This book is, 34 years old? If you haven't read it by now, you're not going to read it. So, or you should have already known. Well, I'm surprised Lifetime hasn't made a series like that shitty Flowers in the Attic series. But, so anyways, the father eventually comes back, and he starts selling his kids. He sells the little kids first, and then eventually he sells Tom to this guy that's basically just using him as a slave because he's kind of a big guy, and he can do all this farm work for him. And then Fanny goes to the minister and his wife, and Heaven's the last one. And this is kind of, to me, where the book got really good. She has to pick between 2 couples. The father's like, well, I don't care. I'm going to be nice about this. I'm going to let you choose which couple you want. And there's a younger couple and an older couple, and the older couple doesn't really smile, or they're not very friendly. So she decides to go with the younger couple because she thinks, well, they probably won't be as strict. And she thinks the woman is like this real knockout, like she's supposed to be really beautiful, and the husband's really supposed to be really handsome. The people in these books tend to be beautiful most of the time, and because it really is fantasy. It's like a soap opera, but a little more exciting than like daytime soaps. And so she goes and lives with these people and finds out that the mother, her new mother, had an affair with her father, and I guess he got her pregnant when they were young. And she had an abortion with a coat hanger, and so she couldn't have her own children, so she wanted one of his. And you're thinking, why would you want one of his kids? She hated her mother that died when she was having childbirth with her. Her name was Lee. She hated Lee, And then she basically gets heaven and just kind of tortures her. Like, she makes her sit in this bath water that's scalding hot, and the skin's coming off of her. And she makes her do all these chores, like probably more than she had to do when she was living in her shack with nothing. Because the woman's kind of OCD about everything. Like, you can't use the pink towels. You can't. Those are my towels. You can't use the black towels. Those are Cal's. Cal was the father. And also the thing with this woman, her husband was 10 years younger. She's supposed to be 35 and he's supposed to be 25. And eventually, with all the abuse, this guy's totally pussy whipped, by the way, the husband. But you find out a little bit more why he is, because she had the money and she gave him money to start a business. She married him when he was like 20, and so he kind of needs her because he owes her all this money. And if she kicks him out, he'll lose his business and everything. So he just kind of puts up with her. And she's always seducing him and using her charms to get him to get what she wants. And so he becomes buddies with Heaven because they're both they both have to put up with her, and they kind of become friends because Heaven can't have friends from school over because this woman's insane. I mean, she really is. She's always calling her hill trash. She basically adopts the guy she was in love with. She was in love with Heaven's father, and then he basically, it sounds like he just had sex with her and didn't want her. She was in love with him, and so she kind of took it out on the daughter. So she took her and